AI is reshaping businesses, and ignoring it could leave your industry disrupted. I'm Rajan, and this is Pivotal Clarity. We talk to those building or using AI, founders and engineers with real world experience. Our aim is to cut through the hype and see where AI is truly making an impact. If you're a business or following tech trends, these conversations offer clearer insight than most of the press. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to the Pivotal Clarity and AI podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Dr. Mfon Akpan, an esteemed assistant professor of accounting at Methodist University. He's an accomplished expert in financial management. With over a decade of experience in teaching, research, and service, Dr. Akpan brings a wealth of knowledge in integrating new technologies into traditional fields. His work extends beyond academy, and his role as an audit committee member of City of Fayetteville is his most notable, where he provides critical oversight in financial affairs. Join us as we dive into how AI is reshaping how accounting can be done and beyond with Dr. Akpan. Welcome, Dr. Akpan.
Hi, Rajan. I'm happy to be here. Excited to be here.
So I'd like to kick it off with saying if you could share a little bit about your journey into the world of accounting and where did it get integrated with AI in this particular field? What initially sparked your interest?
Sure. So professionally, I worked in an adjacent field. So I worked in finance. So I worked in finance, banking before moving into academia full time. I've been in academia for about 10 years now, which prompted me to pursue my doctorate in accounting. So I've got 4 degrees: bachelor's, master's accounting, master's in accounting finance, and then my doctorate. Now moving into AI, it was not necessarily intentional. So it was intentionally unintentional, I guess you could say that. When ChatGPT was released in November of 2022, so that last day of November 30th of 2022, like many people, I started playing with it and just seeing how it answers questions. So I decided to make a video, me plugging in auditing questions from an old CPA exam and seeing how it would do. So I recorded that video, posted that video on LinkedIn. It caught some attention and by a gentleman of the name of David Wood from Brigham Young University. And he was working on a paper that involved over 300 accounting professors. And that would make him very famous, but it would also, involve 300 professors, and it still is one of the most cited and impactful, I'll say that, papers on AI in accounting. So through that, I got some attention and also sparked me to just start moving forward with experimentation, writing articles, and really working with, AI or large language models.
Was there any recent other project that you got involved in with AI in addition to the paper that you wrote?
Oh, I did a couple papers, so I can plug my book with Dr. Scott Dell, which is Chat GPT and AI for accountants. So we recently published that book in, I want to say it was June. It came out in June this year. So that was a great project, which has quite a bit of case studies. So we give you case studies, ways of using AI, particularly in the accounting business. That's been a very well-received book. My book through Emerald Publishing, which is called Future Proof Accounting. I talk a little bit about AI, but it's mainly about technology. That was released a month later. So that was released in July. That's more of a from an academic point of view, but it's also a very helpful book. As far as research, we have Scott Dell and I have a paper that is being released in the next edition of the what is it? Issues in Online Education Journal in the UK. So I have another research journal paper. So different projects tied around academia, which have been well received.
Awesome. What are some of the things that have surprised you when you started combining ChatGPT in the field of accounting? Like, what is your most surprising observation since then?
I mean, my observation is that I believe this thing is going to take some jobs. So that was my initial observation. This is going to, when you would hear a lot of the media conversations and you hear about jobs disappearing, I wholeheartedly believe that. That was the first thing that came into mind, particularly in the accounting area.
Which type of jobs or which type of roles would be taken away in your experience? And why do you say that? I mean, it actually makes a lot of people nervous, and people are afraid of that. What type of roles do you think may get affected, and what should someone do about that?
Well, you're working on a laptop and you're doing some sort of work that involves text, which most people, you're writing email. You know, if you've got to send a memo, if you've got anything dealing with generating some sort of text, it's going to impact you. And the way it's working now is, and I think what people are not catching is that many people believe that, like magic, millions of jobs are going to disappear. It's a slow burn, meaning it's increasing the people who are using it. It's increasing their productivity. It's allowing them to do more with less. So if you think about someone who's not using it compared to someone who's using it, and they've got maybe an increase of productivity 10, 15, 20%, that's huge. If you think about it, not on a daily perspective, but you think about it over a month perspective, they're able to do way more. Now, that translates to, if I'm an employer, hey, I'd prefer the employee that can work at 120% versus the employee that works at 80%. And eventually, I'm not going to need the 80% employee because I can have one employee that does the work of the two. So I think that's what we're seeing. In my opinion, we're seeing a situation where if I'm an employer, I may have, let's say, for example, and I give you an example of 4 employees. Now, if I'm implementing AI, I've got my employees using AI, productivity's increased. Well, if one of those employees leave and attrition is a natural part of business, I don't need to hire someone else. I can still use those 3, and they're working at 150% or 180%. So I don't need to hire someone else. And that's going to save me money, right? And then another person leaves. I can keep going with those 2 people because they're doing the work of maybe 9 or 10 people. So I don't need to hire anyone else. So I think we're seeing that slow burn with job loss, and not an immediate hit where companies are just firing everyone across the board.
Yeah. What kind of job types may get affected? Is it like bookkeeper, or is it somebody who's working on auditing, somebody doing financial close in the broad space of accounting, which is more prone to productivity right now with ChatGPT and other AI technology?
All of them, all of them, all of them. I'll tell you, I've seen I met with the founder of a platform that's used in accounting called Materia.ai. He ran the demo of that. That's it. To answer your question, all of them. And I asked him, so this platform, and I'm not a very technical person, so I'm giving you my version of how this thing works, because I was asking him questions. So imagine it's Chat GPT. You can load it up. So your firm, you can load it up with your client. It's secure. You load it up with your client data. You load it up with the accounting standards or rules and regulations. And then you can go to work asking it questions, having it to do a particular accounting task. Key thing, it does not hallucinate. There is no hallucination because you're in this secure environment. And I was asking him, what does this thing run on? What is it connected to? He said, well, we can connect it to any model that runs the best. So if it's Llama, if it's GPT-4, if it's another model, we can connect it to it and run it. And that's what's running it, but it's in a secure environment and it doesn't hallucinate. Once I saw that, I said, that's it. This proved my thesis about the jobs. So I asked him the question. I said, this is going to take a lot of jobs, because you can have one person who's an associate doing the work of three people. Literally, when he was going through it, it was amazing. And to his point, he said, well, there's a pipeline issue. There's a shortage of accountants. So he had a great answer for this. There's a shortage of accountants. So I don't see it taking jobs, but it would help with the shortage of accountants. So now you've got people being able to do more, firms being able to work with less people, and do more. So across the board, it's impacting the profession, from bookkeepers to audit associates, tax. It is impacting it across the board.
Are there any things that you did in your own personal life, maybe related to accounting, let's say in the recent 2 or 3 weeks, which blew your mind in terms of, oh, this is how you would have done it in a traditional way versus using ChatGPT? This is how it did it, and wow, this is a phenomenal experience or a use case.
Yeah, I'm using ChatGPT. I'm a Teams user. I'm in there every day. And it helps me, particularly with lesson planning, thinking about ways of approaching certain discussion topics in the classroom. I'm huge on tree of thought prompting. I had a webinar on chain of thought and tree of thought, prompting the AI to do the prompt, to write the prompts for you. Because I always say I'm great at prompting, but I'm horrible at writing the prompts. So I know the methodology. So I asked the AI to write the prompt for me, using CoT or ToT. It does it, and I get really great prompts and I get really great results. And that helps to refine a lot of what I'm doing. It's great at giving different ideas. So I may want to talk about a particular topic in class that may be very technical. So I can use the language model to help me to explain this. And I can say, explain it as a undergraduate student, in college. So it can adjust the levels and gives me different ideas and ways of transferring or discussing a topic that may be very complex. That is hugely, hugely helpful to me.
Some folks may not understand CoT versus ToT. Can you explain what's the difference between CoT, chain of thoughts, and tree of thoughts?
So chain of thought is more you're prompting and giving steps. So you're asking it to follow a step, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and giving the answer. So it's a more robust way of prompting. So instead of really using a language model like a search engine, perform a financial analysis. Well, chain of thought first, perform a trend analysis on the consolidated information. after performing the trend analysis, calculate the current ratio, calculate debt to asset ratio. So it gives you a list of things it's going to do, and then summarize your findings. So you have a list. Tree of thought prompting is asking for different perspectives. So you may ask the model to do those things, but then perform the analysis as a financial accountant, perform the analysis as a revenue accountant, perform the analysis as a financial analyst. And then based on all of those analysis, which one gives the most interesting or is the most technical in the results. So you'll get those different perspectives, and then you'll get one output. It's a way of maximizing. I'll give you an analogy. I'll say it's kind of like if you're Lewis Hamilton. He's a Formula One race car driver in your F1 car, and you're driving it at 15 miles an hour. That's kind of like if you're just typing one sentence in as a prompt. By using chain of thought prompting or tree of thought prompting or other methods of prompt, now you're driving at your full speed, right? So now you're pushing that car to its full speed and higher level of performance. And the thing that Rajan, I was mentioning before, I don't write these prompts. I mean, this could be long prompts. So I'm not good at writing those prompts, and I'm not going to try to write them. I ask the AI to write the prompts for me. So, you can ask it, hey, this is what I'm working on. Can you write a chain of thought or a tree of thought prompt for me?
The analogy, I love it. It's going 15 miles per hour, but you're going at a pace which is close to the full speed. Amazing. If it is going to take away jobs, are there any ethical considerations? Is there a role of standards body or regulator that need to come in terms of looking at it from a perspective of how it has impact on the industry and the society? What are your thoughts there, Mfon?
Yeah, definitely. It's going to have an impact on jobs. I think what's going to be the big dividing line at this moment is the pricing, is the cost. And so when you look at the data on how people are using it, many people, so you have people which I call self-directed. What does that mean? You've got someone who, for example, they may work in HR. They may work from home. They've got their work laptop. They're working away. They've got another laptop where they're in Chat GPT answering whatever questions or working, helping them to do whatever work it is they're doing, but they've got Chat GPT somewhere, right? They're not using it officially, they're using it unofficially. So I guess that's the point. You have many of those users who may pay the price for the plus or the teams, so they have access to more usage around a paywall. And I think the impact of that paywall and that pricing, we're going to see more and more of that because, for example, I'm a Teams user. So I can get on chat, I can be on there all day long. And now I have access to the new model, the OpenAI 001. I've got access to it. If you're a free user, you do not have access to it. So I think that with the paywall and the pricing, that's going to keep many people from having not necessarily access, but real relevant access. Because if I'm using the free version of Claude or I'm using the free version of 4.0, eventually I'm going to type in a couple of questions. I'm done. They'll tell you timed out. So now you'll have more of a rift. And I believe, especially with what I saw about the input-output token pricing for this new model, the price is going to go up. And, it's going to make a gap in not necessarily intelligence, but productivity, because the people with the money are going to be able to have access to the models for longer and be more productive than those who do not have access to the models or the high performing models. So eventually we're going to see tiers, so I think that is the big issue around the access and which is impacted through the pricing.
What are some of the challenges that you feel organizations face in getting adopted inside their institution organizations, right? So if somebody is trying to bring AI into their accounting department and teams, what are their challenges today?
The challenge is deciding on how to implement it, what platforms to use, because there's an investment of, there's sweat equity, so time and training. So you've got to bring in a particular platform, you've got to train employees, and the other challenge is things are constantly changing. So you think about ChatGPT 3.5, it's gone. It doesn't exist. I go into my ChatGPT now, and you go through the models. GPT-4 is legacy. If you go in there, GPT-4 is at the very bottom. It's legacy.
And that was 4 months ago.
Yeah,
It came 4 months ago. That's right.
yes, and it was the top model. So that can be scary, and it can be a challenge and we're not told when this is going to happen, or what it would look like. And a lot of this stuff is secret, so that can be challenging for organizations. It can also impact the culture, because people are concerned and do not like change. And having to learn new things. So it can be an issue. It can be an issue. Now, on the flip side, so if you're not able to overcome those challenges, you're going to be really left behind compared to your competitor or another company that's able to figure it out and able to move forward and is able to potentially stumble, right? Or maybe fumble a little bit in moving forward with it, because they'll make the gains are enormous, or the upside is very enormous.
What are some of the trends that you think will shape up? We just talked about how, like within just a few months, that the latest model become legacy. How do you think things are looking going forward?
I think going forward, eventually we will reach a plateau. And I mean, I'm going, Raja, I'm giving you my whole kind of big thought process on this, where we get AGI. Personally, I don't believe that the average person will have just complete access to it. What do I mean by that? I think something like that would be so valuable that either if the general public would have access to it or part of it, you'll have to pay a ton of money for it, in comparison to what we're paying right now. So if we're paying $20 to access the plus version of ChatGPT, whatever that will be, it will be 10x, 20x, 100x of that. Or we won't have access to it at all. We'll have access to something that is maybe 50% or 30% of the capability of that particular model. Unless I'm paying a ton of money, I'd be able to access, or I would pay money and be able to ask 5 questions, or something like that. So because it's like you got a genie. You're able to talk to a genie. I think we're moving towards that. I think AGI is coming. Also, there's a question of what is AGI? So that definition.
I was going to ask you that. In your view, what is AGI? Everybody seems to have their own definition of AGI.
Well, I wrote a paper, so that's a good one. And the paper is: have we already reached AGI?
Same question always ask. I mean, if you ask me, I wrote a blog post saying that, we almost reached AGI if you think it is the Turing test. But if it is a little more than that, then maybe we shifted the goal post.
Well, I think the Turing test, that's a great one. Um, the way I approached it is because I kept seeing all of these benchmarks on the undergraduate exam. Well, okay, let's talk about the US. If it's scoring, I think at the time, I don't know what it is now, but at the time, I think it was Claude and 4 Omni was something like 86, 80, 88% on the undergraduate on this benchmark. Wow. Why is that amazing? In the US, less than 50% of the population has an undergraduate degree, right? So it's around, I think, 44%. So if this thing is 88% and a minority of the population is at a college level, I would say it's smarter than that. If you think about, yeah, it's smarter than most people. The other aspect, so you can take that and look at it for graduate reasoning, it's even fewer. So and then when you get to PhD, that's about 2% of the population. Then you go to reading level. Majority of Americans read around 8th grade level. Somewhere, so there's a small percent, a larger percentage at 6th grade. Then you got 8th grade level. So you may say, well, wait a minute, why is that? Well, the CDC, if you think about medical labels, it has to be written at an 8th grade level. Most people read at an 8th grade level or literacy rate. So if this thing is better, is can write as a college student, hey, it's smarter than most people, particularly in the US. So, and if you extrapolate that, the undergraduate point outwards, I think in the world, 10% of the world population has an undergraduate degree, somewhere thereabout. So it's smarter than most people. So do we already have it? Is it already there? That's the question. And combined with what you were mentioning, the Turing test. So, hey, is it, do we already have it? I think that is a question. And Roger, one more point on that is I think it's important to think of it in that perspective or entertain it because, I in this space, I'm constantly reading and listening to things. And the focus is on being as smart as all PhDs on the planet. Well, okay. But what about the other, is it smarter than everybody else? That's a small number of individuals. So I think looking at it from both ways, we may already be there. And I think that when I listen to, you listen to Sam Altman, Dario Amodei, you listen to them talk and you think of it from that perspective, I think they understand that as well, particularly when they talk about AGI and it coming and the models, how smart they are or how you can apply them. So
Are there any particular breakthroughs that you are expecting or excited that could be a big deal for more from a financial management and accounting perspective within broadly in the progress of AI? Are you seeing something that is missing that if it came would again create like a big moment like the chat GPT itself?
I would say more usage. So more companies implementing platforms and understanding platforms. Particularly, I mentioned one platform called Materia.ai. After seeing that, I said to myself, that's it. That's a game changer because so for me, I'm around partners at KPMG, EY, Deloitte, and they're talking about their proprietary systems and how they're using them. So learning about and meeting with the founder of Materia.ai helped me because now I understand what they're building. So in other words, they've got their platforms where they can upload all of their client information. And this is thousands upon thousands of clients over years and years. And now they have a closed, secure system, no hallucination, which is key, that they can ask it questions, they can have it perform tasks. And I mean, it's amazing. So I think that's a huge breakthrough in the technology. Also, understanding the difference. So there's a difference between what KPMG is using and what I'm sitting on my home laptop using. There's a big difference, understanding that. The other thing is that I think there's going to be more and more platforms built on AI. And again, I'm not the technology person. You're the technology person, but similar to that example with the materia, you'll have some sort of shell, and it's powered by an AI model. It's not on the AI model. So you have something where if Llama is the best one to use, I can connect it to Llama and run whatever it is that I'm doing. So I think we're going to see more and more businesses using the AI as the fuel or the backbone to something else that is on top of that.
Where do you go to, or what do you read to keep up? Like what kind of news or Twitter handles, or like newsletters that you follow to keep up with AI, and like and especially with the intersection of accounting?
I get the Neuron. I get what is it, Morning Brew, the Journal of Accountancy, the OpenAI blog. I watch podcasts. I'm pretty much all over, like a hodgepodge of things.
What podcast do you go to for keep up with AI?
I listen to David Shapiro's interest. He's in North Carolina where I'm at. I listen to him. Hey, I think it's AI Know How podcast. I listen to that. I listen to Tech Talks Daily podcast. And what tends to happen, and then I follow like David Wood on LinkedIn. So what tends to happen, I'll get one piece of info. So let's say, for example, I'll get the Neuron, and they'll mention something in there, and I'll get it. It's across the board. So I get one piece of information where I'll see one thing, and then it's across the board, and then I'll go to different sources. I'll listen to podcasts about it. I'll read a little bit more about it. I'll go to, so for example, the release of the new model that happened yesterday, I got a notification on LinkedIn that prompted me to go to OpenAI. That prompted me to watch a video, podcast on it to get different perspective, and definitely prompted me to open my computer and start using it. So it's different sources, different takes, and I think that's important. Now, do I like it? No, but I had to train myself to embrace, learning and really trying to keep up with all of this because it keeps changing and it's hard. It's like I've got another job. And my other job is to keep understanding what's going on with AI. The other thing is I take a lot of certificates. So I've taken the Microsoft Generative AI certificate, Google. I've done 2 Google certificates, which were focused heavily on Gemini. I'm taking quite a few certificates from IBM. IBM has a really robust training and certificate program on AI. It is tied to Watson, et cetera, but you can get a lot of information and insight, especially for someone who's not a technical person in that sense.
Well, as we wrap up, can you recommend one key resource or strategy for professionals who are interested in using AI to improve their productivity?
You said it. You got to use it. You have to use it. I lean towards OpenAI and ChatGPT because of it can do so much. And what do I mean by that? So, I talk to my colleagues and many of them say, well, it just generates words. Well, I like, no, I can have it create a spreadsheet. I can type in something and have it make a PowerPoint presentation. It'll download it in PowerPoint. It'll download something in Word. I have it create QR codes, for presentations within seconds. So they get shocked with that. But how do I know it can do all of these things? Well, of course I read, but I use it. Particularly that QR code. I didn't know it could make a QR code until I asked it, can you make a QR code for me? And it did it. So using it is very important because you can understand what it can do and what it can't do as it pertains to your particular workflows. And then you can add it to your workflow or what you're doing. And the only way to do that is, like you mentioned, using it and using it as much as possible. And I think, and we're at the time now where this is, where they talk about the equalizer. So right now, everybody has it's free. As far as access, you're using the free version, you have access to someone who's using the paid version for not as long, but you have that same amount of time, which allows you to develop the same types of skill sets with it and understanding with it. So that's remarkable. Will it stay like this for forever? I do not believe it will at all, but you have that opportunity. So, and because the thing is changing so much that it's hard you're not going to be able to develop a course. So imagine you make a university course on ChatGPT 3.5. 3.5 is gone. So you're going to, make a course on it. So you have to keep learning it, and keep embracing the change with it. But yeah, definitely use it, because if you don't use it, it's like that race. It's like you're in a race. And if you're not using it at all, the starting gun goes off, your opponent has got 15 minutes of a lead on you. So now you decide, okay, I'm going to get in this race. You've got to catch up. You've got to try to break that 15-minute lead just to be on par with that person who's also in motion. It's going to be hard. So putting it into your workflows is very important, because I'm telling you, if you're listening to your colleague is using it, they're using it, whether it's helping them to write code, checking that code, they're definitely trying to find a way to do more with less and to work faster and to get things done. So they're using it. I'm using it. I know my other colleagues are using it. It's there. Students are using it. So if you're kind of stuck, that can impact you. You're kind of not understanding what's happening all around you. So I think that's very important.
Mfon, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for being in the podcast. It was a great conversation.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. If anybody would like to reach out or have any questions, LinkedIn is a great way to connect with me. I'm always happy to help.
Yeah, I'm gonna link coordinates to reach out with you on LinkedIn in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Raja. This has been great.
Thank you. It will be great. That's it for this episode of Pivotal Clarity. This is an Opeka podcast. Opeka is an accelerator for global Indian founders building AI software companies. We're exploring the fast-changing world of AI together with our listeners. If you like this podcast, you can find more on our website and other popular podcast apps. Subscribe if you want to keep up.